Welcome to the Free Play Arcade Podcast. This is Chris Delp, the community liaison of Free Play Arcade. I am being joined, as always, by Corey Hayden, the president, and special guest today. He's been on several times. He's here to talk a lot today. Maybe. It's Arthur Williams.
Hello.
Evo champion Arthur Williams. Now, how can they contact you, Arthur?
By clicking subscribe right now.
That is a great way.
There's a bell icon, some sort of words that say subscribe. If it says unsubscribe, don't click it.
No.
Only
not
if it
that
says
one.
subscribe. Click it. We're here. We're making content almost every day, it feels like now.
Oh, definitely every day.
And it is, it's amazing kind of seeing that come back to you, though, right? Because you make content and people respond to it, and it kind of like shapes like you moving forward, but also kind of just puts free play out in the world so much more.
Yes.
The more content we make, more people know about free play. And to us, since we think free play is like the arcade answer, that's a good thing.
Have you been approached by fans yet?
A lot of people now act like they know me without actually knowing me.
That's sort of one of the things that happens.
That's the thing, like, because like especially like with those auction videos, everyone will walk up to me at the auctions and be like, "Hey, Corey, how's it going?" Like, and I'll be like, "I don't know who you are," and they're like,
they're trying to like slowly slide into the camera.
It's always it's really awkward, but the thing is, we'd have like more than 100 videos on YouTube, and the way YouTube works is really cool because people watch. Not just what's current. All the old backlog of videos, they pop up in searches pretty much just as often as like the new trending stuff. So it's really nice the way YouTube algorithms work. So we'll see more and more people viewing our videos the more videos we make. Really neat. Probably smart on YouTube's part too.
Keep coming back to those questions from 6 or 7 months ago as they hit the backlog. I don't mind it, but it is jarring the first time like someone hits you like in full motion of a conversation you were having 9 months ago, and you're like, I definitely remember being in a room with Corey Hayden.
Right.
We were talking. There was a microphone completely obscuring my face. And, well, I'll just pretend I remember this. Let's keep going.
If I know one thing about the people who watch us on YouTube, they just want us to get bigger pop filters. They want them at least 3 times the size of our current ones. Okay, anyways, we're here today. We're talking. We're wrapping up. So we've already done a podcast where we wrapped up the Wide World of Fighting Games, which was our very first spring series event this year, focused primarily on fighting games. This year was different. So normally we would do 6 games over 6 weeks, and we've talked about this on the podcast. This year we did 3 weekend-long events, and that was the goal. And we thought, for some reason, we thought that might make it easier on us. That turned out not to really be true. We thought kind of spacing it out would be good, and we thought that we could introduce more value to the players by having these multi-day events. So, like, for example, we had the Retro Arcade Championships is what we called it, the Free Play Arcade Championships. And the theory behind that event was everyone really loves these Golden Age games, but they're not great tournament games. Most of them. They're mostly high score games. So we developed a tournament format that would try to capitalize and where each player would play each game for 5 minutes, rack up as many points as possible. We use that as a ranking and slowly build kind of toward a finals that way. And we do that all on Saturday, and we do that all on Sunday. And due to time, we only had I think 60 total possible entrants for arcade championships.
I think I got it to 80.
Or 80 was our max. I think we sold 32 tickets.
Yeah, something like that.
So we learned a lot about the arcade championship. So I think one thing we learned is that the format was really good.
Yeah, I had universal praise from the players stopping me and saying, "Wow, I never considered playing the game this way. It made it for a much more compelling experience. This was fantastic." Every player, even the ones that just joined in on a lark because they heard at the last minute, "Hey, there's not that many players. I have an actual shot at $5,000."
Right.
Those players were hugely into it.
Meanwhile, the players that had been playing these games for 20, 30 years more, they were able to sit down and play the games in hopefully a whole new way and have to consider things differently. So if you were really good at, say, I don't know, Star Wars or something, you had to figure out how to maximize your points while in the limited 5-minute time frame.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately where that format goes, if you stick with it year after year after year, and it grows in an organic way, functionally it worked out to where, if you had a good general knowledge of the games, of Golden Age games, and you entered the tournament, you won big money. It just general knowledge. So if you're out there thinking, you know what, back in the day I used to play Ms. Pac-Man at the Pizza House, and I couldn't get past like where they dropped the stork dropped the baby off, but I would get there every time. Yeah, you are winning a significant amount in this tournament. Like that level of competency in a couple of games, and
you'd make top 8, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, that was the generalists, obviously, as you saw over the course of the tournament. That was kind of the skill set you wanted, which was just a broad skill set. All right, so we'll take a quick step back. So this was April 27th and 28th.
Mm-hmm.
We ran a $5,000 total prize pool arcade championships tournament. The basis was Golden Age arcades. The games featured in the tournament, which was an awesome list. We had Miss Pac-Man with the speed-up chip.
Mm-hmm.
We had
the only way to play.
Right.
Yes.
We had Marble Madness, Gyrus, Mappy, Joust, Star Wars, Missile Command, Mario Brothers, Robotron, and Wizard of War. Wow, that's a sick lineup and really cool.
It's a really sick lineup. I had many questions about why those specific games in the tournament.
Oh, and Crystal Castles, apparently I had skipped over because of the way that I'm reading this. So Crystal Castles too.
Yeah. Essentially, like every head-to-head classic retro game we could find absolutely belonged, because what a obvious format for a final,
like
is
bracketed. And I guess let's talk about the structure really quick. So everyone would play all these games 5 minutes, put up their best scores, and they would then be seeded based on that. And if you were seeded high enough, you would be put into what was like the championship bracket. And then the championship bracket was done kind of with either head-to-head games or short or time, a time thing, like a 10-minute time challenge or a 15-minute time challenge.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So games like Mario Brothers, Joust, Wizard of War, that's why those were definitely on the list. And spoiler alert, they probably end up on any like retro arcade game fighting or list because of that nature. Like it's just a very compelling way to play the game.
You can actually fight each other, which
In
a lot
person.
of games back then you can't.
Well, yeah, and as a quick aside, if you happen to know if you're listening to this and you happen to know another 2-player game that kind of sounds like that, like we've gone through dozens to try to find the ones that work, that kind of pit 2 players up against each other, even if it wasn't naturally designed that way, like Mario Brothers. Which Mario Brothers is kind of complicated. Joust too, kind of complicated, because you're not necessarily enemies in the base game.
You don't have to be
Right.
enemies. Although it does encourage you at different points to have that gladiator round. So it clearly is made with that in mind, but it wasn't as fully committed to it as, say, the fighting game genre that would come later, where there is no cooperative portion of it. It's just like go beat each other up.
Right. So if you happen to know another game that's kind of reminds you, if you hear the list Wizard of War, Joust, and Mario Brothers, and you think I have another game that's kind of like that, let us know in the comments, because we are searching for them. And
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
we would love as many Golden Age games like that.
Games like Mappy, Ms. Pac, Crystal Castles. Why those games? They're our favorites.
Right. Well, and I mean, they are also really representative of that Golden Age genres. You've got Maze in there. You've got ridiculous. I don't actually think about Crystal Castles. I mean, the beauty of Crystal Castles was every arcade manufacturer was like, you know what? Sometimes we just have to use a trackball, and that was it. That was it. They were like, we have to have a good trackball or a trackball game. And Crystal Castles, of course, is my favorite, probably of all time.
It's fascinating too. Like you're playing as a bear, which that appeals to me. I've played as a bear in tournaments for a long time. But it's a maze game on its onset. It has like fantasy elements where, again, castles.
Well, sick AI, like the seeking of the AI. And the great thing about Crystal Castles is it feels when you're playing it so random, but there's not a single random element in the entire game.
Well, I like how the stages work in that game more than anything else. If you watch like how they're constructed,
right,
where the computer's like clearly thinking in layers and heights, and it's really interesting. Yeah. You can see kind of how the developers.
Well, I think that it was actually the only controversial choice that people.
Well, I also feel like that game, and specifically, like when I play that game, when I play Crystal Castles, I feel like I'm going on a quest.
Right.
I rarely feel that in an arcade game.
I don't know how they did it. It's really cool.
At least from the 80s.
Right. The only other one I can think of was Marble Madness. But at the same time, it's like that game's awesome, and it only takes 5 minutes to beat completely. So it made for an excellent addition, I thought.
Marble Madness is so good on the presentation level, but like I always feel like it's not anthropomorphized. What's the word? Correct me in the comments, but it's I don't feel enough connection to a humanity of a character, okay. Right? Bentley Bear it's Bentley, right?
Yeah.
He's walking around like he has humanistic qualities, whereas you're just rolling a marble. Now that being said, I bought what was it? The marble racing board game that you would look up from that. No, that too. Every single marble game that I could find, I bought because of Marble Madness, because it made me want to race marbles down stages or anything else.
Do you mean like the wooden blocks?
The marble runs?
Yes, that's it. Marble Run. Yeah.
Marble Run, for whatever reason, wow, this is a totally weird segue, but for whatever reason, was like my favorite game as a kid, and I swear it was the only thing my parents never actually bought me.
I begged for it so much. I was like, you know what? They knew how much I love video games. I was like, don't give me a video game this time. Give me Marble Run. And they're like, yeah, but it's this expensive, and we could get you 2 video games. I'm like, no. I could set this up. I want the whole room. In fact, business opportunity, the full Marble Run bar experience.
There you go. You set up a bar and you just buy every Marble Run set that's ever existed and just let grown-ups go crazy. Because that's actually, my kids now have a Marble Run, obviously, and 80% of the time I put them over there to work on a project while I construct the epic Marble Run, and I'm like timing each run to make sure it's a tight race. I love it. All right, anyways, back to arcade games, guys. That was a great lineup. I mean, there's Color Vector in there. There's, every type of maze game. We've got trackball games in there. You've got, like Missile Command, that just is a truly all-time classic that you put it out on the floor and it just doesn't get enough love. Like it
does not get enough love. That game is awesome.
But then
that was the game John Connor played in Terminator 2.
Right, you featured in a interesting. Anyway, you put it out in a tournament like this, though, and people like gravitate to it. They love it. They're really excited to play it. Got that huge oversized trackball. It's wonderful. So that was kind of the format. We did not get the registration we expected, which, this is all a long-term test, right? Every time we've done anything new, we just see what the response is and see if there's something to build there. Mm-hmm. And here I was kind of left scratching my head. This was Avengers weekend, though, right? Is that?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so
everyone was busy.
We've talked about this a little bit, and I've talked to a lot of people who like own other entertainment venues or even restaurants, stuff like that. It was a surprising down weekend just because Avengers was the biggest thing that ever happened. And people were so worried about it being spoiled that they had to see it that opening weekend. And you had it was the biggest opening ever of any movie ever. So much
so that I ran this tournament as TO and then immediately got out to the theater and watched Avengers myself. So
likewise.
The moment we've closed down free play, I indeed was with them watching Avengers Endgame. It was it was a unique experience for sure.
And I feel like what that did kind of, the bigger negative there was we were kind of counting on maybe 15 of our more casual players out of the community group to hop into this tournament, but almost all of them had some sort of Avengers conflict. Mm-hmm. And it was, and while they would support free play anytime, playing in a 2-day tournament while they had Avengers tickets just wasn't going to happen.
Right. Yeah. They've been working towards this day for 12 years or however long it was.
I'm not going to begrudge anyone for really wanting to see the Avengers.
I think that was it. But I also think, and maybe there's someone on the internet has figured this out, if you can point me to a Golden Age tournament that is getting numbers, I would love to just kind of look at what other people are doing, because we've, other than Mario Brothers tournaments, we've generally kind of struggled with Golden Age games. We ran a really, really cool Ready Player One tournament last spring series in conjunction with Alamo Drafthouse, where the winner got, like a small cash prize, a bunch of swag, and a full theater rental to watch Ready Player One, which, we have a whole podcast ripping that movie apart and feeling super disappointed about it, but we were still super hyped about it, and we still love the fact that arcade games, were mentioned in that book. But even that tournament was kind of a letdown. And this tournament,
but again, the format crushed.
Right.
So people who tried, it crushed.
So
and that's why it borrowed the format from there.
We're definitely having some kind of adoption rate problem, and a lot of it, and it's hard to get it through people's heads that they should just come play and see what happens. A lot of people would and it's totally like a normal human response, I think, to just not want to put yourself in the middle of a competition when instead you could just go play at the arcade. At
the same time, though, I mean, the price to enter this was super, super reasonable. It was a 2-day event, and it cost about as much as coming to the arcade for 2 days. So if you were just wanting to have a good time at the arcade for a couple days, it made a lot of sense to enter this, have a good time, whatever. And it's something new. And if you're not doing it, then I would highly recommend you just check it out. Like, there's nothing wrong in entering something, even if you're going to lose.
Well, it was...
Even if you expect to lose, because you still might win.
And I wonder, and I want to ask y'all both, do you think that the 2-day aspect of this was too long? I mean, I know... If we got the player count we wanted, it would have been maybe too much to actually do it all in one day. But do you think that was a major negative in getting participation?
I don't think so. It's hard to say because it just there were so many mitigating circumstances, but uniformly, like the people who were involved in it, because we had the numbers to where it wasn't necessary. So, hey, everybody's qualified for a final of some sort, so we'll see you guys tomorrow. Everybody was super excited going into the finals because they had so much fun. So, there's gold there. It's just unseen. Like it was not exposed to people.
At the same time, running an event like that in one day probably would have killed the both of us.
Right. Well, I
never care about that.
Well, yeah. Well, especially if we got the player count that we kind of expected.
Well, the real problem is it doesn't kill the both of us; it kills the players as well.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's always hard when we have these longer tournaments. You can definitely tell that certain players fade more, and it's a little unfair.
Yeah, and I remember when we did the Wide World of Fighting games, the ST particular tournament, we were having like the end of the group stage after all the pools. So we had 8 hours of pools to get through all the players,
and then to the top 32.
Right, and it was organized in a very specific way. And I made sure I told the players that qualified out of pools, you have qualified out of pools. I'm looking at my watch. It's like 2 p.m. We are going to resume this competition for you at 8 p.m. I highly recommend you go take a nap.
Right.
Because we had ran into just a too long of a pool stage the previous year, so it worked much better. But you can't just like have a player function highly for 17 hours straight unless your name's Lauren Featherstone.
Well, and that's hard to do anyways. Like, it's hard to go take a nap, right? Because you're in the middle of this thing that you love, and
that's an interesting point. I think I've conditioned myself to it at this point.
If you have to get sleepier, it's time to sleep.
Gun to head, go to sleep. All right.
So I mean, retro. I think that the format was great. Maybe next year, like 3 months in advance, I'm going to commission a $500 trophy. And that's going to be the primary prize for the entire tournament. And I'm just going to make Facebook posts every day that says you could win this trophy. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what players really want. And, because it's back and forth. Because one of the worst things that happens every time we run one of these things, and there's no way around it, is we Monday morning quarterback it. But, like... It's really obvious to figure out what we think might have gone wrong when it could have just been an amalgamation of problems. Any other year, we could have just had exactly what we were looking for here, and we'd be patting ourselves on the back if it wasn't, for example, Avengers Weekend and all the other stuff. The other thing is, I don't think it was a huge deal, but a lot of the true Golden Age players were also at that arcade auction. I was at the same day.
That's true.
So there was an auction on Saturday, and the Golden Age players, they not only do they love playing these games, they love trying to like buy them and figure out these old games. There's like this whole,
or they love watching you buy them live and in person as you film your live show and then just giggling about it.
Well, or they get all their ammunition to criticize me on Facebook later and have a meltdown for me ruining everything.
I do like when I get approached. We talked about sort of like the podcast fans coming to us, because we're on the same feed as those videos where you go to the auction as well. Right. They'll come to me like kind of like, did you hear what Corey did this time? Like they wanted a preview of the show live and in person. It's like they were audience members.
It's nuts. So. Let's go to the final day. Let's talk top 8. We had 8 players going to the championship round, and it was pretty much the who's who of retro gamers that we know in DFW.
Correct.
Any major surprises in there that you can recall? I can try to pull it up.
Yes.
So, major surprise as well. No, it was the who's. Okay, first major surprise was Chris Wilson, who has been featured on this podcast before as a many times Spring Series champion. Did not qualify for the Pro Division. He was a favorite to win it all outright.
Yeah.
He finished in 9th place and in top 8.
Top 8 moved on.
Did
his brother Daniel make it in there?
Yes, he did.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he did.
Which, that's friends of free play. Some of the best gamers in the
Oh, yeah. And
world.
they end up streaming for us. I guess I'll plug their Twitch account, twitch.tv/ Multi-Tap Mugen. They had a name change recently.
Interesting name.
Yeah, they streamed live from a few of our National Video Game Museum events and did a great job. Those guys are fantastic to work with. They're incredible gamers. They've won multiple Spring Series tournaments. We're talking about Chris and Daniel Wilson, of course.
So Chris in 9th. That is a huge surprise.
Yes, it was. Yeah, another huge surprise is one guy went on an absolute killing spree in the pool stages, and Arthur's going to talk about him now. Go.
Todd Carr is incredible. I watched this man just annihilate every game. He was our number 1 seed, and he won almost every game that he played. Wizard of War, he used 2 credits on. We had a thing where you had to play 10 games, you had 11 credits, and your top 10 scores went on. So he used the second score on Wizard of War and did not do terribly well. But he was number 1 in maybe half the games on the spreadsheet. It was incredible. Mm-hmm. He lost his first set at the second day. He was my favorite to win after watching his performance. But the first round was the versus mode of Mario Brothers and Joust and Wizard of War. And he won one Mario Brothers or Joust and lost the other. And then when he had to play Wizard of War, just shook his head, walked over.
That was definitely not his game.
No.
But what's really interesting is Todd Carr is, he's a longtime customer of Free Play. He has competed in most everything, but he's always loved the high score games more than he has when he has to compete against someone.
Yes.
And, which is probably just because he knows these games up and down, but only, primarily from a single player aspect. For example, even Mario Brothers, he's probably, even when he had someone he was playing with, they weren't battling it out. They were seeing how far they could get in the game. And I know Todd Carr is actually a really great Mario Brothers player, but I remember him in one of the previous Mario Brothers tournaments just being like, I just can't do this head-to-head very well. It's the head-to-head aspect that gets me. So it was actually, I expected Todd Carr to do exactly what he did, which was demolish any high-score game and then just get bad beat out of the tournament because, he's never done super well in those types of tournaments despite, owning multiple arcade records and generally having really, really amazing Golden Age game.
No, it is 100% true to form, and to that extent, the Let's Play Game Expo Qbert tournament featured a head-to-head final with me versus him.
Oh wow!
As the 2 qualifiers, and the winner got to go on to play. I believe it's Warren Davis who created.
You got it.
Qbert. Yeah. Wow, my memory is sharp today. I've had some coffee.
I definitely could not have said his name, but I know that that's the right one when you said it.
Yeah, and an actor out of California created Qbert. Who knew?
So Todd Carr took first place on 5 games.
Wow!
And out of the 9, you had to play 9 out of 10. He took first place in 5 out of the 9 games, and in most of the rest, he still placed second.
Wow!
But in Wizard of War, he placed last going into it.
Wow!
So first place in 5, second place on 3, and
cringing when he saw Wizard of War being used as one of the finals, as one of the final bracket games.
I will say also it's really interesting to watch him in early rounds of a Mario Brothers Deathmatch tournament because he always does play in these tournaments, and he actually won one of them. The very, very first tournament that I ran as an employee of Free Play was a charity Mario Brothers tournament, and I forget which charity was. I think it was like a scout troop or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about,
yeah. And he showed up and won the tournament, but every once in a while, early in these brackets, he finds another Mario Bros player who doesn't understand the head-to-head concept, and they go deathmatch in the longest, most epic match ever. 40 minutes of them cooperating with each other.
It's deathmatch to see how far they can make it in the game before one eventually dies out.
Yes.
You definitely could do it that way.
And occasionally they do it that way.
And the better player will win.
Yes, and that's Todd Carr, and he's won every one of these matches I've ever seen. But it's really funny to watch them do it, and everybody's just sort of commentating and scratching their heads, going, "You do know the rules, right?"
Right. Well, and so
last man standing. That's the rule.
By way of background, we've run a bunch of Mario Brothers tournaments at this point, and we have a pretty good idea. It was really fun. We're running it early before anyone had figured it out, but pretty much most of the matches they'll clear the first stage fast. The second stage will be a total bloodbath of just how many people will die. And then sometimes they'll go to the third or fourth, depending. But basically, that second stage is the wall. And that's where all the lives get extinguished.
Either someone's going to try and snuff out their opponent that doesn't know what's happening in the first stage, or both players know what's happening, and this is the hill we're gonna die on.
Right. So because like a good Mario Brothers deathmatch match is that second level, you have all the fireballs going, you still have turtles running around like crazy.
Does Sidestepper show up that early or not yet?
No. Okay. It's just and then you have your two players, and you're all dodging fireballs, trying to trick one of the other players into making a misstep. Basically trying to get under them and push them into something. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful game. So, all right, let's talk let's move into the finals, or the final the championship bracket.
Really? Yeah. The championship bracket. You want to hit the players that qualified?
Yeah. So let me give an order. From 8th seed up, it was Mitchell Rhodes, Jason Palmer, Daniel Wilson, Jason Fellers, Doug Galt, Austin Smith, Dylan Smith, and our number 1 seed was Todd Carr.
Jason Palmer got in, and not Chris Wilson.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, Jason Palmer.
And wow, did quite well.
I mean, Jason Palmer's a good gamer. I'm not like
a generalist gamer too.
Right, it's true.
He plays all the games. That's the key.
By playing everything.
If you're pretty good at everything rather than great at anything, then that really helps you in a tournament like this.
Right. And Jason Palmer took that right to the bank.
Sure did.
Nice. All right, so I guess let's look through the first few rounds. Were there any surprise things besides Todd Carr, of course, started getting knocked around in the head-to-head format?
Doug Galt defeated Jason Fellers 2-0. Dylan Smith defeated Jason Palmer 2-0. And Austin Smith defeated Daniel Wilson, which was probably the closest match 2-1.
Both super gamers right there.
Both. That's in a deathmatch Mario Brothers format. It's one of the 3 games. Both of those are deathmatch Mario Brothers champions, like Spring Series champions. Austin Smith has won the previous one, and Daniel Wilson won the first one.
Wow.
So that was the one to watch for sure.
What a tough. All right, so then we move on. What was the second game?
Robotron,
and that was the beachhead right there.
Wow.
Much like Mario Brothers, that second level was the one where you ride or die on.
So on Robotron, what was it? They have 10, 15, 20 minutes?
15 minutes.
Got it. So as many points as you could score in 15 minutes, that'd be really interesting. Just from I didn't actually. I watched. Did y'all stream Robotron?
We did.
Oh, okay.
Streaming this tournament was a real interesting endeavor.
So, hit it. What'd you have to do?
So let's take a quick step back. So we use a variety of ways to stream, right? But what no one has really figured out in our industry very well is how to stream the true golden age games, because they all have their own goofy ratios. They all have their own goofy signals coming out. Nothing was standardized yet. So
most of the games that we stream ordinarily are the JAMA standard that came out a few years after these games. So we have direct video output splitters from JAMA that doesn't interfere with the game going to the monitor. Work really well. That's how we stream all of our Street Fighter tournaments and etc. We take the video, we throw it into an upscaler. Upscaler outputs HDMI, goes to the computer. Good to go. The problem with Golden Era, as Corey said, is that they do not have JAMA standard. They're
any standard.
And wonky. Right, every board is unique. So months ago, I decided I want to stream this. So I spoke with a friend of mine that's electrical engineer, and he pointed me to a site that would allow me to design circuit boards, and they sent me all the components after I made the thing and I soldered together, whatever. I made what I thought was an RGB amp by consulting him and a friend of mine that had made the RGB amp in my Turbo Duo, right? It doesn't actually output RGB, so that's not important. The important thing is, so I made this thing. And I went back to my original friend and said, hey, will this work? And he's like, no, that's not going to work. And I'm like, well, why isn't it going to work? And he gives me some long-winded explanation about why what I did isn't going to work at all. And I'm like, so what do I do? And at this point, I spent like more than a month trying to design these boards. And it took him weeks to get back to me. He's like, well, what you should do is just convert to JAMA and then send the JAMA, the now JAMA signal into your currently working capture board.
Oh, geez.
And then from there, convert back to whatever and send whatever to the arcade rig itself. And I responded to that, but that's essentially what I tried to do already.
Right.
I mimicked the RGB amp from the guy made, and I never really got a clean response. And at some point in time, I'd like to figure this out. I have a year. I don't want to blow up anything.
Let's go ahead and let's throw it out to the internet. So the problem here is we have game boards outputting a signal, and each game board has its own general amplified signal that's coming out and the strength that it is. We want to be able to tap into that signal without degrading it as it goes to the monitor in a substantial way.
Or introducing lag.
Right.
Discounting the vector-based graphics games, which are their own thing, all the regular raster scan games are going to be, the signal is going to be in a RGB plus the sync.
Right.
And
yes.
From there, it seems like you should just be able to figure out kind of amplified split.
And if you're listening to this, we totally recognize that some are going to have multiple syncs, some are going to have positive, negative. We understand that there are differences in each one. Like, for example, getting Qbert to stream is going to be a lot harder potentially than getting MISPAC, or at least MISPAC's going to be more, whatever rig you build is going to be more compatible with MISPAC than it is potentially Qbert. But the other problem is a lot of the off-the-rack stuff, as Chris just mentioned, that we could potentially use introduces a ton of lag.
Yes.
And it introduces a ton of lag when we send it back to the monitor. So it's not, we could probably live with a little lag going to the streaming rig, you know, whatever frame or two, but we couldn't really live with any lag that the player would be feeling because we're drawing the signal. So if anyone has any bright ideas out on the internet to get these to our streaming rig so we can upconvert them, throw them on Twitch, and have a direct feed out of a Golden Age PCB, we'd love to hear it. And
I think that they would have to be designed specifically for any individual game.
That's what I've heard every time too. Yeah.
I mean,
the ones that I designed, I made 3, and they were individually designed for whichever games I was using.
So
Robotron, Miss Pac-Man. I don't remember what the third one was.
Let's see if anyone on the internet has a good idea. Because so I assume then we used the GoPros.
Yes.
Did you use the GoPros or webcams or something to point at the monitor, do as best as it can?
Yeah, C930 Logitech or whatever we use.
And it's less than ideal. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it has focus issues as it tries to focus on either the screen or the player's face in the reflection of the screen.
Well, yeah. So the biggest issue I think that we've always found using these kind of webcams is it's not like you can put it right in the middle of the game, because that's where the player's eyes go, because the player still has to play the game. So you're always kind of putting it over like in a corner or something and trying to focus
I figured that out over the course of years of doing it. Like you can, our program, we actually use XSplit behind the scenes. It allows you to rotate the camera as a 3D object,
right?
Which means you get to sort of virtually recenter the camera image. But you still have things like reflections and refresh rates and just it looks less than ideal. It's not the best that you could possibly get if you had a direct feed input, and I think everybody kind of understands that. So I will say some of those game of the weeks that I've seen with direct footage are gorgeous.
Right.
Hats off to the man who records that, because holy cow, it looks amazing.
Well, yeah, when you get to say player move out of the way, I'm syncing, like when you get to do that kind of stuff that you can't do during tournaments, it does make it a lot easier.
My favorite, just roll back in the footage after you watch this video to the Gravatar game of the week.
Yeah, that one was beautiful.
And look at that footage that is not direct feed, that is purely in an arcade with a camera, and it looks gorgeous. In my opinion, that looks better than a direct feed. The rare occasion where it looks better than direct feed, because you can see it's on a crisp, clear
Vector
CRT
monitor,
vector monitor,
Yeah.
and it just looks absolutely astounding.
So one day we'll be able to convince our tournament players to work with our cameraman, and let's get it really
Just have
really
him
tight.
live stream the whole thing.
and just be like, player, I don't care if you're in the middle of the game. This image has to be perfect.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so we walked through. We hit Robotron second round, which is awesome. What did we have third round?
Well, real quick, Mitchell Rose defeated Doug Galt, and Austin Smith defeated Dylan Smith.
That was the real big one right there, because Dylan and Austin Smith, it usually comes down to the two of them.
Right.
And they met in the semifinal, and in that game, in Robotron, that day, nobody was beating Austin Smith, period.
His score was quadruple everyone else's.
Austin Smith is one of our top Robotron players as it is.
Yes.
If
I
not
think
the best.
he has the record now. He has the record, and it's over the private party record.
Right.
Like, he's crushed everything at this point.
Yeah, I've spoken to him, and he's deep in the millions and millions and millions.
Yes.
And he's to the point where he's studying like kind of that marathon. How long is he going to go? And he actually had a post about it not too long ago, actually, in the community group. That's why I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
Where he was just like in the zone and millions of
kept
points.
going.
Yeah,
Kept going. Eventually, he just voluntarily quit. Yeah.
Because the arcade was closing in like 10 minutes.
That's how that's how Robotron kind of goes. Is once you get past that hump, it's not too dissimilar than Tapper.
I want to keep gushing about Austin here. That man is incredible at not just that game. He is marathon worthy, like capable in Galaga. He's probably that good at Defender as well.
And he's going to come up in our section on the pinball tournament that we had 2 weeks later in a little bit.
Nice. Yes. He's also, but he's not the best pinball player I've ever seen. He may be the best arcade gamer I've ever seen. His play on track and field, a game that I did not think was possible to have advanced techniques for, are completely unfathomable. Like his button press technique is so tight that I see him pick up a Killer Queen, a modern game that's sort of based on Mario Brothers and Joust, if you haven't heard of it. And they emphasize tapping the one single button of the game very quickly.
Right.
This sounds like track and field to me.
Right.
And his button press technique is better than any 25-year-old that's been playing this game for 3 straight years.
Right.
Like, and by a wide margin.
Now he is maybe the top Golden Age player we have, but let's see how he does in this tournament.
Well, he definitely won Robotron over Dylan. R.I.P. Dylan Smith. He did well.
Yeah,
the final. Sorry.
Okay, keep going.
The finals was a 30-minute max time game of Miss Pac-Man, and Austin Smith scored 112,030 points, while Doug Galt scored 138,690, taking it over Austin.
Goodness.
Yeah.
And both games went very long time. Doug Galt got a game over with, I think, a minute left. He started doing risky things to try to get more bananas, like as you would,
trying to point pressing basically.
Yeah, if you have to point press late in that game, the only thing that matters are bananas,
right?
Because they're worth 5,000 points and they're randomly occurring at some point. So you just got to blow through the stages as quickly as possible.
And the game became less about playing safely and more about gotta get points. It was just fascinating to watch both players.
Well, and I got to tune in for these finals, and you could tell that Austin Smith was a little nervous. You could tell that like this was a situation he probably had never been in. Sure, this has never happened before. So this is. I mean, because he's playing for the difference between first and second 1,500,
something like that,
and the trophy, which probably matters even more to him, like winning that trophy. And Doug Galt,
also he had to play first, so he didn't know how he did not know how good Doug was or wasn't, and the only thing that really Austin had to reference how good he was himself, and I guess other good Ms. Pac players like myself. And he just had to assume that like his doppelganger was waiting behind him, and that puts extra pressure on that. Also is unnecessary because Doug went into the final after Austin Smith put up a really good score, in fact a better score than Doug felt he was capable of, and said, "Well, there's no pressure on me. I know how to play the game. I own the game. I can give it my best." And he just had the game of his life. He told me that was the highest single Ms. Pac score he's ever gotten.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, wow,
clutch as it comes.
It's a great score too.
Well, I mean, that in that time period, I would have never guessed, because for whatever reason, I would have felt like that was a shorter game, but I think I've just played Miss Pac too much to because I would have felt like 150,000 would happen faster than about 30 minutes.
Seems like that's a pretty good half-hour score.
Yeah, no, it's just internally is what I'm saying. I've played the game so much that now I feel like I've spent way too much time playing Miss Pac.
I haven't completed a game of Ms. Pac since I was trapped in the mountains with only Ms. Pac-Man.
Because like that. Now I realize I've probably played Ms. Pac for far more hours than I've ever given myself credit for. Which is fun. Which is cool.
Time well spent, sir.
Well, it's a gret game. So Doug Galt, kind of a surprise winner. I mean, we knew he was a great gamer, and we knew he had a really nice, robust play experience. Like he's probably seen these games as much as anyone else. Given that he's a huge, he's an arcade fanatic. He loves arcade games and he loves playing. And he comes in and he plays them well. So I bet he was like dreading Miss Pac though. Compared to some of the other games, and
he offered that we could like re-roll and just do Joust as the final. He was okay with that.
And I bet, I mean, because if you think about it, if you put Robotron last, Austin Smith auto wins.
Yes.
But somehow Miss Pac-Man was the great equalizer here. 2 tight scores.
Well, really close. And both those players hadn't necessarily qualified on Miss Pac-Man to get there.
Right, yeah.
So the game keeps changing. The target keeps changing.
And neither of them were specialists on Miss Pac, which I think is the best possible outcome because you don't have someone that's just necessarily going to win. You've got 2 great gamers who are going to battle it out, and you don't know who's going to win in the finals. And Doug Galt takes it.
Well, I thought one of the interesting outcomes of that also was, both Dylan Smith and Austin Smith defeated in games that like they just ran into that guy who was the master of the random game that was chosen. Both of them lost that way, essentially. I guess Austin lost to the ghost of that guy. Right. But both of them came to me and said that, they really liked the format and specifically how that sort of like blended everybody's skill set and like you didn't know what was going to happen coming into the match.
Right. So, amazing, awesome tournament. Really good stream too. I really enjoyed watching the parts that I got to watch.
It was fun to stream. I wished I could have gotten direct video, but there's always next year.
And we're gonna have to. Then that's the big question, and it's been asked a lot to me, which is really irritating because more people have asked me, am I gonna get to play in this tournament next year than registered this year? More people are like, man, I want to play in that tournament. It's just a bad weekend for whatever reason, Avengers. But they've come up to me, and the truth is we haven't set we're never going away from Golden Age. And that's probably the hardest thing and one of the longest things that Free Play has been doing and sticks to where other people have given up.
Yeah.
We're going to be running Golden Age tournaments until we're dead.
Yes.
But the exact format next year, we don't know. I mean, this format was really great. Who knows really what's going to happen? We're working through all sorts of ideas, but the best way to ensure more Golden Age tournaments happen is to show up to these Golden Age tournaments.
Yes, show up, play. You've played. I just said that Jason Palmer knocked off Chris Wilson because he had general skills. Like, we are emphasizing the general player. We always are. So if you grew up playing these games, the tournament is for you.
Well, if you've ever met Doug Galt, going into this, he was just like, I don't even know if I really can play. I don't know if I can compete with these guys. I'm just gonna, all right, fine, I'll play. Then he wins the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a specialist in Joust,
right?
And secondarily Williams games, but like Joust.
Yeah, so that was kind of our Retro Arcade Championships that we threw this year. Great tournament. Not enough people showed up, but that is the nature of running tournaments. You never really know. Okay, so then we're going to wrap up the spring series with the final event, which was kind of an interesting, a whole nother story that we get to tell about it. But Pinball. Pinball finally makes it into the spring series. You had been running, I think, 12 or so Pinball Mondays before this.
Sounds about right.
It's been about a year since we started it, maybe a little longer. And so we decided we need to feature Pinball in the spring series because we love Pinball, for one. And over this last 16 or 18 months, we've really stepped up our Pinball game to make sure, because I'll tell the camera this, I'm not even ashamed. Dallas Observer named another location Best Pinball in Dallas. I said, nope, this is not going to happen. Now, we're not actually in Dallas, so it might have been a fair award. But I said, absolutely not. Free Play is going to be the best at everything. The next week, Free Play Arlington doubled its Pinball. And we totally revamped the lineup. We made sure, and I think Free Play Arlington, I stand by the fact that I think It has the best pinball lineup that I've seen in terms of general variety. Awesome games, but mixed in with actual old games, which is so important to me. So that was kind of the background there on trying to figure out pinball. And so we wanted to make sure we featured pinball because there's all these places that they never do regular pinball tournaments. They never do big pinball tournaments. And I want to make sure that to the extent there is an audience, we are there doing it because pinball is cool. Retro arcade games are cool. We want to celebrate them with tournaments, challenges, special events, everything. We want to be the people doing that, and this is what it takes. So we ran what we called Pinball Mania. The goal was to somehow have a pinball tournament that wasn't completely marred by technical failures, because that's every pinball tournament I've ever participated in or heard about. All you ever hear about is, wow, that sucked because this game broke in the middle of one of my games, or it had an intermittent switch that I was totally unfair and I hated it. So, and that happens every single pinball tournament times a million. So, as the background here, we have Free Play Fort Worth coming. Free Play Fort Worth is going to have 10 to 15 pinballs. I went ahead and bought every single pinball that was going to be brand new for Free Play Fort Worth to use in Pinball Mania, which gave us a really kind of lucky situation in theory. We'll get to that in a second. Where you're opening new pinballs, they should work, and they should be reliable through the first 1,000 plays, including most switches and stuff. I mean, and of course we here at Free Play know things break on pinball, no matter what scenario situation. But that was the highest odds. So our pinball lineup for this pinball tournament, and I guess I'll go ahead and do the format. There's another $5,000 guarantee. It was pool play on Saturday, 3 pools, and then the top, was it 4 from each pool?
4, yes.
Would then move on to the finals on Sunday.
We didn't do any timed high score runs. It was a 3 strikes format, which is group stage. So 4 players play 1 game, and then head to head in the final day. So if you couldn't get a grand champion score every time you played the game, that wasn't going to hinder you terribly in the actual tournament.
Well, and I think that was kind of like a nice twist on, your Pinball Mondays are all...
the group stage was essentially Pinball Monday times 3.
And then, we had head-to-head finals. So the game list that was going to be featured, Pirates of the Caribbean, Hobbit Black Arrow, both from Jersey Jack, a brand new Star Trek Starfleet Pro Vault, whatever they're calling it. It's the Stern Star Trek, an AC/DC Lucy. Jeez, and I could talk about all these games. A total nuclear annihilation that had about 250 total plays, basically brand new. Wasn't out of the box, but had been unknown, and it does make 3 now in the Free Play network, which is important to me. The Getaway High Speed 2 that's at Arlington, that's pretty much its own famous game at this point. That is a specific version. Try to have Black Hole out there. This was actually my biggest regret, was not being there. Black Hole has a lot of connector wear, and it had a connector issue that had happened during transit that I had built all the pinballs, but I didn't turn on Black Hole. So Black Hole ended up getting cut. Bally Vector makes it into the tournament, actually survives, and we heard a lot of nice things about that. Monster Bash. Roller games that got cut. So the roller games thing is really, really irritating. Roller games has a random element that someone has been working for years to get rid of. They've been trying to tweak the code, get it to go.
It's called sudden death mode, and randomly it occurs, and for 30 seconds or a minute, whenever it's sudden death, go for the wall, you can make a shot that's worth so many points that you can't catch it otherwise.
Well, yeah, it's 1,000,000 points per ramp shot.
Right.
And it just cycles through, and it has the magnet on the whole time.
Yeah.
Other tournaments have used roller games successfully. They've merely disabled the magnet and said it's part of the pinball game, see what happens. Pinball players don't like anything like that. Tournament players at least. So someone remade all the code for roller games. We patched our roller games, turned it on, crashed. We patched our game again, new chips, everything. Turned it on, booted, errored out. Went back to the old software and it was working fine. So we worked for a while trying to get that software to work. Couldn't work. Cut roller games. So then our backups came in, a Tron LE.
What a backup.
Yeah, well, and one of the rarest and probably it'll eventually be, unless if something changes at Disney, the rarest pinball on Earth. I mean, besides like the prototypes and stuff, but the regular ones that got manufactured.
Why is that one specifically so rare?
So they made 400 LEs, and the license is gone.
Oh, so they can't remake it.
So
at all.
they're not. There's no real prospect of a re-release unless if Disney somehow decides we love Tron again, which does not appear to be the case.
Not for the decade, I'm sure.
Disney's got its own stuff going on with all sorts of like world-ending franchises, Star Wars and Marvel,
arcade tournament-ending franchises. Yeah.
So Tron LE, that from what everyone has said, Stern no longer has any ability to touch the Tron license, and they only made 400 of these LEs. The LEs are substantially better than the Pros, so everyone wants an LE, and it's
got a functioning Tron in the middle of
right. It's so weird. Cool, it's a whole thing. And then Iron Maiden, brand new out of the box. Actually, this one we threw in there as what was originally going to be an alternate, just ended up being a tournament game. Did we have to bring any others over? I can't remember. But that actually makes 10, so that might have been the end.
We were going to use Deadpool, and then we didn't.
Because Pirates of the Caribbean finally got up. So we unboxed 2 brand new $10,000 each Pirates of the Caribbean from Jersey Jack. And I was really mad at Jersey Jack at the time. I'm less mad, but still a little perturbed. Neither one of them worked out of the box. Neither one of them worked. One of them had just a switch that had been wired backwards. That was difficult to find because it's a brand new game.
And how many switches are on?
Right, and every pinball has. So
1,000?
A switch being wired backwards caused one to be inoperable. Eventually they found it, fixed it, Pirates was back.
Not quite yet. There was a launcher in the back that wasn't sending the pinball out. So after the door open was fixed by Richard, he still had to get that particular... Let's see. Like there was a pin that was installed backwards.
Yeah, there was a gate, a little metal gate that was there. That should not have been. That wasn't doing its job. It was doing the backwards job. Thanks, factory.
Since we're talking about what happened to the first one, I wasn't privy to what took down that one. I know it never got up.
Yeah, and that was another thing. So another reason I should have been. It was an opto, and most of our pinball techs are really really good at opto work, but I'm like optos are my life, and one of the optos was sending the incorrect signal, and they were technically had one opto sending both an open and close at the same time, which would cause the game to reboot.
Gotcha.
And it was it's actually, we haven't even finished fixing it because it might actually be a board issue. So even if I was there, I would have been able to diagnose it, but I might not have been able to fix it. Because as you know, Pirates of the Caribbean has this cool little boat on top. It runs on all optos.
Pretty awesome.
Instead, we're walking the plank during the middle of the tournament.
So that was really super irritating. But we did get one up, and it's a fun, unique, really cool game. And I've played it now quite a few times, and I think it's great. I just wish they worked when we opened them.
As the organizer, the tournament organizer, and I've done now 12 of these, and I've been to several just researching. This is 100% consistent with every pinball tournament ever. Including like out of the box, this does buyer beware on brand new pinballs. It doesn't matter where they come from. I don't know why exactly this is. I'm imagining it just has to do with the sheer number of switches and mechanics and
parts. Yeah, a lot
of
stuff has to go right.
Yeah, if 99% of the switches work, then that means it's a non-functional table.
Right.
We used brand new tables. Some of them went down. What I thought was really amazing is we had issues with many of the new games coming out. And if it wasn't initial issues, it was things breaking during normal play. Almost all the games suffered from this, and they all came back up. And we had techs on site bringing them back up right then and there. By the end of this tournament, we had 10 working tables in tournament. They were all perfect. Like, it was really amazing to see how the condition of the tables did not degrade over the course of the tournament. They actually improved significantly.
Well, yeah, so that's what's really nice, right? So we have 4 techs on site, and we had more than $4,000 of pinball parts that we had ordered just for this tournament.
Yeah.
Just so that we could replace whatever broke, which meant, of course, when something finally failed, we had a replacement part, and you're replacing it. It might have been, it might not have been perfect before because it was failing. It's, things like, who knows, a coil, a switch, who knows? But then we were there with the perfect part. Boom, it's there, it's fixed, and it's 100% back up immediately. We had, I think at one point they had 6 soldering irons plugged in, all heating up at the same time to repair stuff. It was really amazing. And the other amazing thing was, we talked about some of these pins went down. We still we had more than 34 pinballs at location. So what was really
amazing.
What was really cool is, as stuff went down, it wasn't like, oh God, we're screwed. It was, oh God, which pinball do we have to move in for the tournament? Which is a really, really good position to be in, because it was virtually a bottomless hole of pinball that we could keep bringing out.
Well, and bring pinballs back up again,
right.
Which happened, and it was really amazing to see. Like I got many compliments on how fluid the tournament went, and considering how many machines are failing and how many machines fail every single time you try a pinball tournament, it's something to be proud of. So
we talked about the format of the pinball tournament. What was really this was another one where we expected it to be ultra sold out, and it didn't sell out. And we actually had...
I have no idea why on this one.
We had a lot of... I think I do, and it was the day, what happened on Sunday, which was Mother's Day. I talked to a number of people, and we actually had almost 20... maybe 23 no-shows. We had a lot of no-shows.
Mm-hmm. But what we did, of the Pinball Monday regulars, it was almost 100% they all showed up.
Right.
So the regulars showed up, absolutely.
Well, and what tended to happen as we got to it was we'd have a lot of people send me a message or send the website a message saying, hey, I'm thinking about registering, but Sunday's Mother's Day. And my answer to most of them was like, man, that's pretty arrogant. That's a lot of players you have to get through just to make it to Sunday. And if you make it to Sunday, you're going to be in the money. So just register and see what happens on Saturday. But of course, everyone assumed they would make the final day. Everyone assumed they didn't want to lose out because they had to go to brunch or whatever for Mother's Day. And I think that really suppressed the registration. I mean, we know that suppressed at least 10 or 15 people. We don't really know what the top end or the bottom end on registrations would look like on a normal weekend. Next year, we definitely have to... We scheduled this without even realizing that was Mother's Day. Because, and I remember sitting around the kind of roundtable discussion, we picked our Wide World Fighting Game weekend finally after running into like 16 conflicts, and we were like, this has to be the weekend. And then we built everything out off of that without ever even
2 weeks from that and 2 weeks from that.
Yeah,
and that was the...
We didn't consider Avengers or Mother's Day. So I think that was real. I actually thought that the attendance was pretty good. Well, the registrations were good. The attendance was lower than I expected, just because I think a lot of people just bailed because they were worried about the Mother's Day issue. The other thing
makes sense.
No one wants to be out late partying the day before Mother's Day. And that's actually a hilariously, historically slow day for us anyways. Because like the Friday before Mother's Day, jam-packed, one of our busiest days. The Saturday before Mother's Day, not very busy at all. No one's out there at 2 a.m. enjoying an amazing arcade. Everyone's been in bed because they got brunch. 9:30 a.m. They have to be there. They have to get dressed up. They have to do a ton of stuff. They can't look super hungover. So...
I can't think about Mother's Day at Free Play Arlington without remembering the great Mother's Day massacre of Tapper, where Lauren Featherstone, we had a community event because you anticipated a slow weekend for Mother's Day, and said, Chris, let's do a community appreciation day that day. That Saturday, half price for all community members. Lauren Featherstone's there. She's our Tapper champion at that point, but like she's getting better, right? And she hits up to 300,000. Everybody's coming to me, Chris. She's at 300,000. She has like 4 lives left. It's incredible. And when she lost that match, I was like, wow, okay, you're as close to 1 million as you are to 400,000. Once you hit that point, you just keep going. That's it. You're there. Like, you're world class right now. And she's like, okay. And she goes back and she hits, and then I'm getting reports back. She's at 300,000. She's at 400,000. She has lives off the screen. And she hits 1 million, just trucks right past it. And we ended up keeping the place open the entire night. It's Mother's Day. Right. Midnight is Mother's Day. She's still playing. 4
I
a.m.
remember
is
that.
Mother's Day. She's still playing. She's halfway to the world record on just a casual game.
It was basically like, the clear signal that she was going to break the world record.
Oh yeah, clear. And then she got to halfway there. It's like 6 a.m. The sun is up. And she voluntarily quits because she has to go take her mom out right then and there.
Right.
So without any sleep, she drives and takes her mom out for Mother's Day.
So, Mother's Day is a thing. And we always plan our... And which, I mean, it's kind of a side note, but we always give moms...
That tapper was never the same.
Free admission on Mother's Day. And we normally get about 50 moms per location out, which I think is kind of good. But... one day, I think somehow I'm going to figure out, even if it's brunch at Free Play, we're going to figure out a better way. Because, maybe it's just the weird world we live in and the stereotypes, but on Father's Day, we're jam-packed.
Right.
On Mother's Day, which, it's weird because we, in my day-to-day going to the arcade, our population is about 50-50. Like we have everything from, 13-year-old girl groups who come in like after sports and stuff to play arcade games, and tons of dates and everything, and in our community group tons and tons of women, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just awkward for me, and maybe it's just because I live in like a much smaller arcade community that I just assume all moms want to come to the arcade, but I'm gonna figure that out one day. All right, so
some definitely did.
So Mother's Day pinball tournament. All right, so We've got it pretty robust with the Texas Pinball Festival here in Dallas, or DFW. It's in Frisco, technically. We have a pretty robust community already baked into DFW. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of stuff going on. $5,000 tournament, tons of fun. Pool play went well.
Yeah. The machines improved as the day went on, which was quite the sight to see. We didn't stream it, and actually I wanted to throw it over to Arthur because I know he wanted to talk about streaming it.
So we didn't stream the pools, but we did stream the finals on Sunday.
Very first time Free Play's ever streamed a pinball anything. So
sounds like a nightmare to me. Arthur, it was all you.
It was very interesting. Like, I streamed the Texas State Championships at a different arcade a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago or so. And I learned a little bit about stream pinball, but I didn't make the actual apparatus. But there's usually 3 things of importance for stream pinball. You want to have the playfield, the scoreboard, and probably the player. So that's 3 cameras. You want to have probably a camera on the commentary crew to go to something in between matches, because you need to do that. So you'll probably need, in the end, 4, maybe 4 cameras, possibly 5. We did it with 4. The first and foremost problem is getting over the pinball table and out of everyone's way. So originally I figured I'd make an apparatus that would be made out of PVC pipe or something like that. That would just be like a hollow closet, if you will. So I could just mount the cameras to where they could point everywhere they needed to. And after reading a whole bunch of stuff online, everyone's like, yo, mic stands are great. And I'm like, you know what? We already have microphone stands. I think I can get this to happen. So a few days beforehand, myself and our wonderful graphic designer, Josh Featherstone, did a bunch of tests so that we could figure out how to make the pinball playfield look and how to have the stream around that. And it seemed like we could have the camera hanging over the field on a microphone stand and work pretty well. Well, it did work all right. I'm still not sold on whether that works better or just I really need to make something out of PVC pipe. But you have to have the camera pointing at the table. You have to have the other camera pointing at the scoreboard. Many of the scoreboards are now fancy LCD whatever right. TVs. And so it dawned on me afterwards, why do I even bother having a camera on this when I could just have an HDMI splitter and take direct video out?
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that while I was doing this actual stream, I was thinking this will work better next time.
When's the next time?
Next time is Pinball Monday.
June 10th. June 10th.
June 10th.
That is a summer nights event too.
That's true. Yeah, get the summer nights card.
We'll probably talk about that in a future podcast. Maybe, I don't know. But I'm just envisioning now walking into one of my warehouses and seeing this massive, like 10 foot tall, 4 foot wide, like PVC structure that you slide the pinball in, and it's got like 16 cameras to capture every angle, and you never have to adjust them because you have 16 of them and you have everything.
I intend to make it to where I slide the PVC pipe thing because I'm pointing at PVC pipe over in the corner.
Yeah.
If you're wondering what I'm pointing at over there, because the camera's not over there, it's just there's pipe over there. No, it's much easier to slide pipe around.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Much less damaging to pinball machines as well.
So we had, a number of good top pinball players in the area sign up. I guess let's kind of walk through who got out of pools. Do we have that available?
Yes. From last seed to first seed, we had
Mark Majori.
I was going to butcher that. Thank you. David Whitlock, Donna Lasker, Scott Hunsacker, Chris Geist, Ethan Wade, Chris Carway, Kevin Rodriguez, Ken Kemp, Austin Kemp, Lynn Lyons, and Warren Joe.
And
that's a pretty stacked.
It's stacked. And as far as like our tournaments, our Pinball Monday tournaments, I see Warren Joe, Lynn Lyons. I want to say Ken Kemp won the Denton one, although I might be lying about that one.
No,
might be. Lynn didn't win because he left.
Didn't what's his name? The local didn't.
You're right, Brendan Steele, who did not qualify. Okay, so that not a Pinball Monday champion. Ken Kemp, he seems okay at pinball though. Ethan Wade, Chris Geist. So we had 4 Pinball Monday champions in the top 12.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Lynn did win the one up in Denton, didn't he?
Nope. He was gone. There was Gabby off mic. That was your moment right there.
I don't know why. I just would have expected him to have won that one. So
he actually left that tournament undefeated to go to the airport.
So let's then hop in. All right, so nice finals. What was the finals format like?
Finals was head-to-head, best 2 out of 3 on different games each time.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it was in the planning stages. It was going to be a randomly chosen game, and I have a program to help me set that and account for games going up and down. It's really really nice and functional. But functionally, what happened was we were streaming The Hobbit, then we were streaming Iron Maiden, and then finally we streamed some other games as the finals hit. But that meant that basically The Hobbit had to be played at all times, so people kept playing that. About every other match included The Hobbit in some way, and then everything else was random.
Yeah, it took several minutes to reset the pinball stream. The first time took me much larger, but after the first swap, I figured out a better way to realign everything. The main problem was the cameras they exist in physical space, and they have to point at whatever. But the microphone stand itself was angled, and the cameras be angled, and so I'd have to do a lot of clipping and 3D rotation to make all the video look good. And I was never, under any of these games, able to get a really good look at the scoreboard. I believe Pirates of the Caribbean was maybe the best, or no.
The largest?
Iron Maiden was the best looking scoreboards, where you could just look at that picture and say, oh, I know what the score is. Mm-hmm. But trying to point a camera in a room with some lighting at a screen that is lit differently at different spots, the cameras could not quite figure out how the scoreboards work, and I gotta try to solve this problem over the next 3 weeks, or at least make some strides in it.
I've got a pitch for you.
Yes.
Drone.
Nice.
Why didn't I think of that? Okay.
Just problem solved. Problem solved.
Okay, so finals
just a big whirring right over your shoulder.
And so I was looking through the player list. What was really interesting to me is it's, pretty much a who's who of who's local that played. And I'm looking at the IFPA list right now. What really, really stands out to me is Donna Lasker.
She was the standout, yeah.
So I actually was contacted by her not long before this tournament because she said, I love pinball, and she used to play at a bunch of other spots, and she used to play, go to the Texas Pinball Festival and play in tournaments and stuff. She said, I haven't played in a tournament forever. I don't know if it's worth my time. And, I sent the same thing that I sent to anyone who sent that, which was, just register and find out. Mm-hmm. And here she is, totally unranked, unknown, and boom, she in a pretty good tournament, beating much top ranked players. You've got top 1,000 in the country pinball players that she just outperformed.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's really cool. So
it's a format that means you get 3 balls, no extra ball. So if you buff one of those balls, especially early, and your your opponents do okay, well, then you have all the extra pressure on you, and it doesn't matter how good these players are. Like, there is a breaking point, and if you just continue to play, in a calm manner, which Donna did, I don't see why anybody who isn't a decent player can't qualify for the finals, if not win outright. And she proved it. And it was funny to hear her aw shucks routine during the tournament, as she's like, I'm just happy to be here. I'm soaking in the experience. I don't care if I win anything.
Right.
And then it was with great pleasure when she qualifies in the top 4. And I go to her before the final match of the group stage, and I say, you and you and you have all qualified. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Every single one of you is going to be walking away with money from this. And just to get to be the one to give that good news was quite fun.
Yeah, because of the large prize pool, we were able to pay out 12 deep. And a lot of people were really pleased with that. Like, several of the people that show up on the second day did not expect to have any winnings.
Right.
Because they
got 12th or 11th or whatever.
Which is fine.
Yeah, that's
a third of the tournament is going to take 9th.
I think it's awesome. All right. So walk me through kind of the final day. Did it seem very clear who was kind of going to be the top few, or?
No. And I will. There were many really good players. If you want me to tell you who the top 6 players were, like I could, but one of them, the very top, I felt like was Kevin Rodriguez, who had won a tournament not too long ago in New York City. Very, very good, capable of putting a grand champion score at any point on any machine, and did during the tournament. So other players feared him, was what I'm saying. Every time they got matched up with him, they would say, "Oh no, I'm done." Right? I want to say he finished tied for 5th. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So he got sent into the losers bracket relatively quickly. We ran a double elimination tournament. He himself was quite happy with that format that allowed him a second chance in the tournament. And then everybody was just scared of him going forward, including Chris Geist, who ultimately defeated him. And man, pinball is fun to watch. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play. I do recommend it. Come join us for Pinball Monday on June 10th or every month. It's one of the first 2 Mondays of each month. Just check our calendar. But it's a lot of fun. It really is fun. And I didn't get to play in it. And that was okay, because I still had a great, fantastic time. Like, I really don't feel like I missed out having not got to play in this one.
Well, and I mean, so I guess let's go ahead. So Kim wins the whole thing.
Yes, he does.
He's like a nearby principal who's also
near the Oklahoma border.
Also a top pinball player.
Yeah, and Austin Kemp, his son, entered the tournament as well in a different pool. He qualified. He finished in the money as well, and he provided commentary with us. We had a really, really good turn on commentators.
And I can't tell the current rankings, but it looks like Austin Kemp might even be higher rated than his father at 17. Actually, wait, I know who Austin Kemp is. He's awesome. Great pinball player. And that's really, really awesome to see. It seemed like a really awesome person to win the tournament, Ken Kemp. Mm-hmm. I love later he showed a photo of his prize rack, or his trophy rack. And the biggest trophy was the free play trophy,
it's absurd.
Which let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our 32-inch tall pinball trophy that had a 12-inch or 10-inch pinball on top. It was
massive.
The truth is, this was the season of me trying to learn how to do trophies. I went all over the place, did some good things, some terrible things, some dumb things, but that pinball
was both good and terrible.
Was the most ridiculous and absurd thing I ever saw. I was like, this thing is hideous, but that is a pinball trophy.
Yes, it is. Yes,
I was like, this is crazy.
It just needed some 80s rock hair metal references, and then it would be the perfect pinball trophy.
So, and I mean, the ultra, regular that does well in all of our tournaments, Lynn Lyons, I believe, got second. Is that correct?
Yes,
He did.
So
Lynn
he
was the
reset
only
the-
person.
He reset the brackets.
Yes.
Wow, so exciting finals. He comes in a loser's bracket, resets it to have an epic showdown with Ken.
Made Arthur set up like 3 more stream rigs just because of that.
I can only imagine having to move.
I was actually hoping that would end in the first set, even though it was an incredible set of pinball. Because I'm like, oh no, what are we going to do?
Reset everything.
And Matt,
Matt
thank
Johnson,
you,
our
Matt.
tech.
Yeah, Matt Johnson. He was not the happiest about it, but he was moving tables everywhere for me.
Well, Matt cannot say he was not warned because he was very happy with me as he was watching the tournament progress early on. And he came to me about 1:30 p.m. or so and it's like, hey, it's looking pretty good. We're going to be out of here by 6, something like that. I looked at him and I was like, no.
So,
It's a long tournament.
I mean, the biggest question we received, and this is actually, it seems very obvious to me, that the pinball will be part of the spring series again next year. I don't really see any way around it. I feel like pinball tournaments are something that you really build on. And I feel like this was just an awesome, super successful
fun and
event.
compelling. Come out and check these events out because they are good times.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
in true free play fashion, we love that we have a ton of people that are already doing it. But all we really want is people who think, man, that might not be for me to try it and see, like, or even think I love pinball, but that sounds like too much competition. Just come hang out. The Pinball Mondays are, the normal admission fee, and it's free to play after that.
Mm-hmm.
They're all IFPA tournaments. So you might not care about it right now, but if you play in like 8 of them or something, 6 of them, you will be ranked on the national pinball rankings. Mm-hmm. And you might not be super high, but you'll be ranked, and it causes this really cool feeling to see your name up there and want to keep playing, keep competing, and learning how to play pinball. It's really, really a cool setup. The whole pinball world is set up really, really nice.
Go find Donna Lasker and ask her what it's like to just compete in a random pinball tournament with us.
She knew she liked pinball, and this one was, beyond what she had done lately, but she entered it. Next thing you know, she's in the second day. She wins a little bit of money, and she has a ton of fun playing pinball, and just surprise, and you never, every single tournament has a surprise story, and if you're listening to this, that could be you as long as you enter. Mm-hmm. We've run way over time.
Can I call out competitors for next year?
Are you calling out like people who didn't show up that you want to give
I am.
people?
I would like the Moncla Mafia to show up. That is what I want to see for my Pinball Mania tournament next year. Moncla Mafia, I know you're out there. Does somebody know them? Send the word. We'd like to have them out at Free Play. Bring them all. Win all the prizes.
Right. We want people to show up that are better than us, like, mm-hmm. or at least that think that they're better than us. We love it all. We want all of that to happen at Free Play, because Free Play has a ton of parties. Free Play has a ton of wild Saturday nights. We have a ton of, hilarious community group events that are just about hanging out, playing games. But we also want to make sure that we are, doing the right thing for tournaments and those types of special events. And the only way we grow is if everyone who's listening to this comes and grows with us. We don't make money on tournaments. We do it for fun. And it's really important to us that we are the people doing it. So, you have to come out. If no matter what you're telling yourself, the excuse you're giving yourself not to come, you're wrong. You'll run into a professionally run, amazing tournament that is filled with people who are cool, not toxic. It's like the top to the bottom. We've rebuilt tournaments at a retro arcade in the way we think they should be run, and the results are amazing. And that's not just us. Everyone, after this pinball tournament, my inbox was filled with people that are like, please make sure you do that again. You got to do that again. That was so amazing. I just want to play more pinball. And, I try to explain, I'm like, guys, a 2-day pinball tournament's a lot of work and stuff. They were like, let's do it tomorrow. I'm like, no,
I get that as well.
just keep coming to Pinball Monday. We'll keep trying to run pinball events. But it's, I was like, we're talking like 3 truckloads of stuff, people unloading, building for days. But anyways, Spring Series was a ton of work. It was a ton of fun. That is kind of our wrap-up show for the Spring Series. I think if you're listening to this, you should just come next year, play. We're going to be doing some tweaks, and I'm sure we'll have some announcements in about 6 months.
If you want to preview what's going to happen, we have these events all throughout every month. Pinball Monday is a preview of the Spring Series Pinball Tournament. Like they are our Tuesday Night Fights is the staging ground for our fighting games tournaments. They are casual friendly. They always are. That is aggressively how they're set up. But we have tournaments and events, little casual things that never have an entry fee that are streamed, that lead directly up into everything that we're doing. So come join us. See for yourself how fun it is.
Awesome, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.